I'm 73 years old. I retired 8 years ago at 65, exactly when I was supposed to. I did everything right by the rules I was taught. I worked 38 years at the same company. I saved diligently. I waited for Medicare. I did the math the way my financial advisor told me to do it, and I regret almost all of it. Not because I'm broke. I'm fine. I have enough. That's not what this video is about. I regret it because I gave up 3 years of my life for money I didn't really need, and I lost things I can't ever get back. My wife had a stroke at 68. We never took the trip to Italy we'd been planning since I was 50. My grandson's last summer of being a kid was the summer I was working overtime, so I could feel safer about retirement. I felt safer. He grew up. That trade was the worst trade of my life. I want to say something that might upset some of you, but I'm 73 and I've earned the right to be honest. The retirement industry in this country is built to keep you working. Your employer profits from it. Your financial advisor profits from it. The federal tax code rewards it. Even your friends and family, who genuinely love you, will tell you to be safe and wait a few more years, because that's what they've been told their whole lives. Nobody in your orbit, except maybe a red array who already lived through this, has any incentive to tell you the truth. The truth is this: your healthiest, freest, most energetic years are between 60 and 70. Period. The retirement industry knows this. They just don't say it out loud because if everyone knew, half their business model would collapse. Nobody told me any of this when I was 62 and standing at the door, ready to walk out and take my Social Security and start living. The financial guy said wait. My boss said wait. My accountant said wait. And I waited. If I could go back to that morning, I'd retire that afternoon. And in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly why and exactly what I'd do differently, so you don't make the same mistake I did. Let me start with something most retirees won't say out loud. According to MassMutual and the Employee Benefit Research Institute, between 35 and 50% of retirees say they wish they'd retired earlier. Half of all the retirees you know are quietly carrying around the same regret I am. They just don't talk about it because admitting regret feels like admitting failure. We don't fail, we get lied to. By our employers, by our advisors, by a culture that treats 65 like it's a finish line when it's actually just a number some bureaucrat picked in 1935. Let me walk you through the 7 traps that kept me at my desk for 3 years too long. Trap 1. I believed working longer meant safer. This is the lie that got me. Every year from age 55 to 65, I told myself just a few more years and I'll feel safe. I never felt safe. The number kept moving. I'd hit my goal and decide I needed more cushion. Then more, then more. Here's what I figured out too late. For someone like me earning around $65,000, 3 extra years of work netted, maybe $150,000 to $180,000 after taxes, payroll deductions, commuting, and lunches out. That sounds like a lot. It's not. Spread over 20 years of retirement, it's about $750 a month in additional income. That's not life-changing. That's a car payment. But what those 3 years cost me wasn't $750 a month. It was 3 years. 3 years of being healthy enough to climb mountains. 3 years of my grandchildren still being little. 3 years of my marriage at peak energy. You cannot get those years back. There is no Social Security supplement that pays you in time. Trap 2. I underestimated how fast my body would change. This one I want you to sit with for a second. When I was 62, I could hike for 6 hours straight. I could carry my granddaughter on my shoulders. I slept through the night. I didn't take a single medication. Today, I'm 73. I take 5 medications. My knees won't let me hike more than a mile. I haven't picked up my granddaughter, who is now 19, since she was 12. The Centers for Disease Control reports that the average American experiences their first major health limitation between 65 and 72. Nobody told me that statistic when I was 62. If they had, I would have done the math differently. Someone retiring at 62 in good health typically gets 8 to 10 healthy retirement years. Someone who waits until 65 gets 5 to 7. That's not a small difference. That's the entire active phase of retirement cut almost in half. Stop and think about that. Read it again. Working 3 extra years for money you might not even spend in exchange for cutting your healthy retirement nearly in half. That's the trade. Nobody frames it that way because nobody wants you to see it that way. Trap 3. I told myself I couldn't afford it. I had close to $1 million saved. I had Social Security coming. My house was paid off. My wife had a small pension. By every reasonable measure, I could have retired at 62 without a problem. But I'd convinced myself I needed more. The advisors love the figure of $1.8 million. That's the average number Americans say they need to retire comfortably. Most retirees never come close to that, and they're fine. Most retirees live on Social Security, plus a modest withdrawal from savings, and they manage just fine. The You Need More feeling is manufactured. It's manufactured by financial advisors who earn more from longer working years. It's manufactured by employers who benefit from experienced workers staying. It's manufactured by a culture that treats working as worth. Here's the math I should have done at 62. Take Social Security at 62. Withdraw 4% a year from savings. If there's still a gap, take part-time work doing something I actually enjoy for 2 or 3 years. That combination would have produced a comfortable, sustainable income for the rest of our lives. Instead, I worked full-time for 3 more years to add a small cushion to a nest egg I didn't need. The refrain nobody told me. The question isn't, can I afford to retire at 62? The question is, can I afford to not retire at 62 and miss what those years could have been? Trap 4. I didn't know who I was without my job. This is the one that took me 5 years of retirement to even understand. I stayed in a job I didn't love until 65 because deep down I didn't know who I was without it. My identity was built on a 38-year career. When I tried to imagine retiring at 62, my brain went blank. What would I do? Who would I be? The Stanford Center on Longevity has data showing that retirees who build strong non-work identities before leaving the workforce report significantly higher life satisfaction than those who waited to figure it out after. I never did the work in advance. I just kept showing up at the office because the office told me who I was. And when I finally retired at 65, I spent the first 18 months drifting, depressed, and quietly wondering if I'd made a mistake by retiring at all. The truth was, I hadn't made a mistake by retiring. I'd made a mistake by waiting until I retired to start figuring out what came next. If I could go back, I'd start building that next chapter at 58. I'd take up something I cared about, volunteer, start a small project, spend more time with people I loved, so that by the time 62 arrived, I wasn't walking away from something. I was walking toward something. Trap 5. I missed the most valuable tax window of my life. This one is technical, but I need you to hear it, because it cost me real money. The years between when you stop working and when required minimum distributions start are typically the lowest tax years of your retirement. Your salary stops. Your Social Security hasn't started yet or hasn't fully started. Your other income sources haven't kicked in. You're in the lowest tax brackets you may ever see. For someone retiring at 62, that's about 11 years of low tax window before RMDs start at 73. 11 years to do Roth conversions at 12% or 22% instead of being forced to take RMDs at potentially 25% or higher. Someone who waits until 65 gets only 8 years of that window. 3 years missing, and during those 3 missed years, your salary fills up the lower brackets, leaving no room for tax-efficient planning. I missed those 3 years. I just figured my CPA would handle taxes. He did. He filed them correctly. He just never told me that by working until 65, I was permanently giving up about $75,000 in lifetime tax savings I could have captured if I'd retired 3 years earlier. $75,000. That's the cost of a luxury car, or 2 years of travel, or a down payment for a grandchild's house. Gone, because I waited. Take a breath here. I know this is heavy. Let me tell you something that changed how I see all of this. When I turned 70, I went to a high school reunion. 45 years out, most of us were retired. A few weren't. I sat at a table with 8 people I'd known since I was 16. 2 of them were dead. 3 were dealing with serious health issues. 1 was a widower. 1 was caring for a wife with dementia. Out of 8 people, 1 couple was actually living the retirement we'd all imagined when we were young. They'd retired at 60, 5 years before me. And they spent their first decade traveling, hiking, doing photography, learning to sail. They told the rest of us, very gently, that they didn't regret a single day of it. Everyone else at that table had a version of my regret. Not regret about money, regret about time. I'll never forget what one of them said. His name was Dave. He was a corporate attorney, made way more money than I did, worked until he was 68 because he kept telling himself he was too valuable to leave. He had a heart attack at 69, 6 months after retiring, triple bypass. He survived, but he never recovered the energy he had at 60. Dave looked at me at that reunion and said, very quietly, I would give back every dollar I made between 60 and 68 if I could just have one of those years back the way I felt at 59. Then he laughed, but it was the kind of laugh that made the rest of us go quiet. That's when I knew this video needed to exist. Trap 6. I listened to the wrong people. My financial advisor told me to wait until 65. Why? Because every year I kept working, my portfolio kept growing, and his fee was a percentage of my portfolio. He wasn't being malicious. He was just doing what advisors do, which is recommend the path that keeps the portfolio invested longer. My boss told me to wait until 65. Why? Because I was a productive employee and replacing me would cost the company money. He wasn't being malicious either. He was just doing what bosses do. My accountant told me to wait. Why? Because complex working year tax situations pay him more than simple retirement returns. Nobody who actually benefited from me retiring at 62 was at the table when I made the decision. The only person who would have benefited was me, and I was too busy listening to everyone else. The smarter approach, the one I'd recommend to you right now, if you're sitting at this crossroads, is to find 3 or 4 people who retired in the last 5 years and ask them honestly what they would have done differently. Buy them coffee. Take them to lunch. Listen, that single conversation will teach you more than any retirement calculator, because they have nothing to gain from your decision. They just have wisdom they wish someone had given them. Trap 7. I thought 65 was magic. It isn't. It never was. The original Social Security system was designed in 1935, when average life expectancy was about 63. The system expected most people to die before they collected, or to collect for only 3 to 5 years. 65 wasn't a retirement age. It was a date the average person would never live to see. Today, average life expectancy at age 62 is approximately 84 for men and 87 for women. The average person retiring at 65 today will spend 20 years in retirement, not 3 to 5. The system was never designed for that. 65 is a default. 65 is a habit. 65 is a number we inherited from our grandparents when life looked completely different. The "I'll wait until Medicare" excuse keeps millions of people working 3 extra years to save what's often only a few $1,000s in health insurance premiums. The Affordable Care Act marketplace makes coverage available for most retirees in their early 60s. And for those with lower retirement income, the subsidies can make it surprisingly affordable. 3 years of your healthiest retirement traded for a few $1,000s in insurance premium savings. When I do that math now, I want to scream. So let me tell you what I'd do if I could go back to 62. I'd retire that morning, not in 3 years. That morning, I'd take part-time work, doing something I actually enjoyed for the first 3 or 4 years, just enough to cover health insurance and reduce withdrawals from savings. Maybe consulting 2 days a week. Maybe teaching at the community college. Something I'd choose, not something I'd endure. I'd do aggressive Roth conversions every year between 62 and 70, filling up the 12% bracket. Sometimes the 22% bracket, moving as much as possible from traditional IRES into Roth before RMDs forced my hand. I'd delay Social Security to at least 67, maybe 70. The 8% annual increase from delayed retirement credits is the best guaranteed return available anywhere. I'd bridge the gap with my IRA and part-time income. And most importantly, I'd take the trips. All of them. Italy, Yellowstone, visit my grandchildren in Colorado for 2 weeks every summer, long-distance bike rides while my knees still cooperated, concerts, plays. Bucket list I kept telling myself I'd get to after retirement. After retirement turned out to mean after my body said no. Don't make my mistake. Here is your action plan. 5 steps. I'll keep this short because you don't need a checklist. You need to act. 1. Calculate your real spending number. Pull 6 months of bank statements, add up actual expenses. Subtract everything that goes away when you stop working, commuting, lunches, professional clothing. Most retirees discover their real spending number is 15 to 25% below their working year income. 2. Visit set.gov and print your benefit estimates at 62, 67, and 70. Match those numbers against your actual spending. You'll likely discover the gap is smaller than you feared. 3. Have lunch with 3 retirees you trust. Not your advisor, not your accountant, people who've already done it. Ask them what they would have done differently. Listen. 4. Meet with a fee-only fiduciary financial planner, not commission-based. Pay them by the hour. Have them model 3 scenarios. Retire at 62, 65, 67, and show you the lifetime difference in taxes, income, and quality of life years between each. 5. Ask yourself the question I should have asked myself at 62. If I stopped working in 6 months, what would I actually do with my time? If you can't answer that, your problem isn't money. Your problem is identity. And waiting 3 more years won't fix it. It'll just delay you figuring it out. The real regret most retirees carry isn't financial. It isn't that they didn't save more or work harder. It's that they spent their healthiest years doing work they didn't love, for money they didn't really need, while the things that actually mattered slowly slipped past them. I'm 73. I have enough money. I have a beautiful family. I have everything I worked for, and I would trade a meaningful piece of my savings for those 3 years back. I'd trade more than that. If you're listening to this and you're 58, 60, 62 right now, you have something I don't have anymore. You have time. You have the option I didn't take. Don't wait until you're 73 to learn what I learned. If this video helped you see something clearly, send it to one person you love, who's standing at the same crossroads I stood at 12 years ago, the one paralyzed by financial advisors and tradition and fear. Forward it to them today. Give them the conversation I never got. That's the only thing I can do now to make my own regret count for something. And it's the only thing you can do to make sure the next person doesn't repeat my mistake. Thank you for listening to an old man's confession. Take what's useful, leave what isn't, and whatever you do, don't waste another year on a job that doesn't love you back. Go live.